Whenever we think about advertising, we need to think about the consumer first and foremost. And so what I'm interested in is how marketers can graduate their approach to advertising, all paid media, to be more customer obsessed. And for Forrester, that really means serving the needs of the customer, which benefits the brand, right? Which drives business growth. So omnichannel would be not just about digital, not just about traditional, not just about video or paid search or paid social, but how all of those things need to interact to deliver some kind of cohesive experience that consumers don't hate.
So tell us about what you think best practice is and how this might develop.
Well, I'll start by talking about where I think we went wrong, because I think the developments that you've seen in digital advertising brought a lot of good, but also a lot of problems. We got really, really obsessed with direct response. We got really obsessed with hyper-targeting, I think to the detriment of frequency management, so we're over-serving the people that we care about. We ushered in an era of really low quality, which is, I think, in a lot of ways created a bit of a crisis of faith in digital advertising. But it also has a lot of good, right? Like programmatic ushered in an era of real-time impression-level decisioning, you know, bringing the power of AI to bear through machine learning that's doing that decisioning, you know, using data in the moment to make smart decisions, doing personalization at scale, doing targeting at scale. Those are all really good things. And being able to buy across channels, those are really good things. So how do we take what's good about all of those developments that have happened, especially in the last 10 years, and turn it toward good advertising, right? So that's things like continuing to realize that the breakage between brand and direct response is problematic. There's still a lot of that happens. Acquisition team versus brand team, or acquisition team versus CRM team, right? A person is a person. Thinking about when you're advertising, whether or not you're talking to a prospect or a customer, like what is the relationship, if at all, that you have with this person, and how should you think about that when you're making a decision what to say to them? How do you balance, you know, building brand equity over time with, you know, a need to drive sales? What is the relationship between those two things? Those are, you know, even knowing not to say anything sometimes in advertising, which is not our instinct. Our instinct is to say, I found the user I want, I will serve this user an ad. It might actually be better for the consumer in that moment not to hear from you because they heard from you 3 times already that day.
So what is the role of consumers, and are consumers being considered, or should they be?
So are they, I mean, I suppose if you asked any marketer, any good marketer, he or she would say, well, I definitely care about the consumer. You know, the consumer is on the receiving end of my advertising. The consumer buys my products or services. But in practice, I think we've lost sight a little bit of the actual consumer experience, the person on the other end of the screen. And when you ask consumers how they feel about this stuff, they have opinions. And, you know, we're Forrester, so we have this research. We have lots and lots of research from our huge panel of consumers, which helps us understand kind of big trends. And then we also go out and survey kind of individuals to ask them questions like, how do you feel about retargeting? And the reality is they're highly variable. Some are totally cool with personalization because they see the value exchange. Some are really not. And even if they understand it, they're not cool with it. So how does a marketer start thinking about that kind of lens on how they are approaching consumer advertising to make sure that not only are they not doing damage, but ultimately, hopefully, they're doing something good? Because I think the thing we don't know right now is what damage they could be doing by upsetting consumers by delivering the wrong experience.
Is the industry motivated to change? There's a lot about we hear a lot about GDPR, of course. We hear a lot about the debacle with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica. We hear brands being impacted by social change. What are some of the currents that could change the scenario? Motivated
to change, that is a great question. I would love to believe naively that brands are invested in delivering good experiences because they see that that will deliver positive upside. That isn't necessarily always the case, right? When retargeting runs amok from retailers where consumers feel like they're being harassed by ads following them around the internet, and that happens. So I would love for it not to simply be, we are being forced to change because regulation is requiring it, or because, you know, ad blocking rates are 90%. They're not, But how do we avoid that fate? I would love for it to be a little more proactive. And I suspect there will be brands that lean into this kind of stuff that I'm talking about more effectively than others. And I hope that they can serve as leaders for others to learn from. Because if nobody does anything, you know, it's a problem. I'm not sure that it's enough for us to just assume that it's okay to keep doing what we're doing. You know, what is consumer response to what we're doing? Do we really understand it? I'm not sure we do.